On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:07 now on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here, and thanks for joining our conversation. Man, oh man, still reeling off of the site of the largest pro-Israel gathering in world history right here in our town on the National Mall. An incredible sight to behold, and we'll be discussing that a little further on in the program. And when I say we, I mean me and she, Jessie Jane Duff. Retired Marine Corps gunnery sergeant here to wake everybody up. Please don't blow reveille again.
Well, I won't. I won't.
Still have a headache.
But I'm excited to be here because the energy from yesterday is something that I wish more people could have experienced. It's obvious. They hit it out of the park yesterday. It was awesome.
Phenomenal stuff. It is. All right, let's bring in Gordon Chang, of course, an expert on China and all things Pacific Rim. His book, The Great U.S.-China Tech War. Find him over at Gordon G. Chang on X.com. Gordon G. Chang. Good morning, Gordon.
Good morning, Larry, and good morning, Jesse.
Good morning.
We're seeing the spectacle here of President Xi in San Francisco when he and his motorcade and his entourage drive through the now freshly scrubbed streets of that fair city for his visit. And people are waving Chinese flags on the sidewalks as he drives through Chinatown. And it almost looks like, regardless of what's discussed at this economic summit, that just in terms of the battle of propaganda and images and visuals, Xi Jinping already comes out way ahead. The fact that we've rolled out the red carpet and we're acting like he's, some conquering hero.
Well, that's certainly right. And also, we got to remember that the Chinese consulates were organizing Chinese students to go to San Francisco to cheer on Xi Jinping. That actually is getting foreign nationals to participate in our political discourse. I think that that's actually a violation of our sovereignty. This shows that the Chinese consulate and the Ministry of State Security exercise great control over Chinese students. They not just surveil them, they also actually control them. We should be doing something about that.
Hey, Gordon, what do you think is Gavin Newsom's agenda? Why did he go to China, and what is it that he's trying to find himself? It just comes across that he's captivated with Xi Jinping. So what is your take on it?
My guess is that Gavin Newsom would like to run for president, and he's trying to burnish his resume. He went to Israel before he went to China, and I think he's trying to show that he has foreign policy chops. But his trip to China was a disaster. He was, first of all, just without thinking, he was repeating Communist Party talking points about our relationship with China. Even Biden won't do that. Also, he was driving that car, the test drive of the car from BYD company, which is a Chinese EV. He shouldn't be promoting Chinese vehicles over American ones. And, of course, he ran over that poor kid on the basketball court. But that just showed you this trip was one mistake after another.
What do you expect President Biden and more realistically his team, because really he's just doing what Anthony Blinken, Jake Sullivan, and, whoever's in Barack Obama's living room in any given evening, what they want him to say at this summit. He's supposed to meet with Xi Jinping today. It seems to me that we have nothing to discuss with this country until we resolve the unresolved issues of COVID-19, China's involvement, and their cover-up.
And fentanyl and stealing of U.S. intellectual property and surveying the U.S. by that balloon for nuclear weapon strikes. The list goes on, which means we shouldn't be talking to Xi Jinping right now. We've talked to him and his predecessors intensively for 3 decades. So the question is, what is Biden going to say that hasn't been, said before? And really, we have policies that sound like they should work. Let's establish channels of communication with China. Let's try to find areas of common interest. And all of these things, they sound okay, but the point is when you look at the way they have been applied in practice, this has been a disaster for us. And that's created this disastrous situation.
So what do you think is going on with Joe Biden? Do you think he's going to placate Xi Jinping? Do you think that the money that's been exchanged that we've been hearing conversations about by the Oversight Committee, the evidence that they believe that Hunter Biden made $1.5 million when he was the vice president, Do you think that Joe Biden's ever going to get tough on China, or is he going to just try to go along to get along? And are we going to get bulldozed?
Well, I think we will get bulldozed. It could be because Joe Biden was bribed. It could be because he's blackmailed over Hunter Biden's personal conduct. Or it could be, as Robert Gates famously said in his 2014 memoir, that Joe Biden, quote, has been wrong on nearly every foreign policy and national security matter of the last 4 decades. So, it doesn't, take your pick,
Yeah.
Who knows the reason why he's been not defending us?
Gordon, if I could, just since Jesse Chang raised the issue of Hunter Biden, I've seen a lot of reports, sadly some from Republicans and members of Congress, who keep referring to Hunter Biden's contacts in China as Chinese businessmen, Chinese millionaires, Chinese billionaires, Chinese CEOs. Can you just reiterate to everyone so that we have it ingrained in our DNA, and maybe to some of those congressional staffers and congressmen who are listening, that if you are a Chinese businessman and you are doing business with America, especially somebody connected to an elected official like the vice president, you're more than just some businessman. You're not some entrepreneur who has a dream of building a business. You're directly connected to the Communist Party of China. You don't do business on that level unless you are directly a tool of Beijing. Isn't that right? You're not allowed to otherwise.
That's absolutely right. You can't maintain a sensitive relationship with someone like Hunter Biden and not do it at the direction of the Communist Party, which really means we shouldn't be looking at quote unquote private businesses in China as businesses in our sense. Really what they are instrumentalities of the Communist Party. Now, some have greater connection to the party, like state enterprises and state banks, but they all are acting as one, and we have to treat them that way because this is a communist unitary state. It's not some federalist democracy.
Thank you. I don't know why we need that reminder, but apparently we do. And by we, I mean people who are in this government and the media. Gordon Chang, always great to talk with you, and I love following you on X.com. It's Gordon G. Chang. Gordon G. Chang. Thank you, Gordon.
Well, thank you, Larry, and thank you, Jesse Jane.
Thank you, Gordon.
You're much nicer to him than you are to me.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah. 7:15. WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes, first on the fives. Jamie likes me. Jamie Witten's in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Love. I'm giving the big heart sign right now. Love,
Thank
love,
you.
love.
I needed that.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Support our wounded warriors during the Fisher House Radiothon November 30th and December 1st. Visit WMAL.com/FisherHouse.
I'm just teasing Jesse, by the way, of course. You're like a sister to me, the way you give me so much trouble.
I am a sister.
I've never had a sister.
I've known you how many years now? Far
Too many. Too
Yeah.
many. Well, we were 8 when we first met, so it makes sense. We have an update out of Las Vegas. We told you this story several days ago, this horrific video that we saw from a high school where a young man named Jonathan Lewis, 17 years old, had intervened when another student was getting harassed, bullied, and picked on and even physically harangued by a group of other young teenagers. He intervened and tried to stick up for the kid who was being bullied, and this mob of students turned and beat him to death, literally beat him to death. The video went viral. It didn't get much attention on regular media, and sadly there is a racial component to this. There's a racial component in terms of the fact as to why this got coverage or didn't get coverage. You see, the young man, the 17-year-old I'm describing who got beaten to death, he's white, and all of the students who beat him to death are black. And I assure you that if the races were reversed, and if there was a black student who was beaten to death in a high school and it was caught on video by a mob of white students, we'd be having a national conversation about race in this country right now, right? But because it was in the other direction, either it was ignored by mainstream media because it's like, oh, ho-hum, just another violent act, or they purposely want to keep it down because they don't want this narrative out there that that this kind of violence exists, Jesse Jane. Fox did do a report on it several days. This happened November 1st, by the way. Here, Cut 8 is Fox's report on it. And we do have an update on this. Finally, charges have been filed against this mob. Here, take a listen.
The unfiltered video shows a group of teens forming a mob around 17-year-old Jonathan Lewis and beating him. The deadly attack happened at Rancho High School in Las Vegas a few weeks ago. The 17-year-old victim has now died, according to his dad. The teen's father told KLAS that his son kept to himself and he was planning to move from his mother's in Las Vegas to live with him in Austin, Texas. The victim's dad says it's unimaginable that such violence reached the point of taking his son's life, and that he questions whether the students even knew what they were doing when they beat his son to death. The student's family says investigators plan to charge several students involved in this fight with murder. And tonight, a GoFundMe for the teen has raised $56,000. The GoFundMe claims that Jonathan Lewis was beaten because he confronted that group of students who were attacking a smaller kid for allegedly stealing something from them. The GoFundMe reads in part, "Our son is a kind, loving, gentle young man who has the heart of a champion."
All right. As you just heard, he died from his complications to these injuries. Now there have been arrests. 8 between the ages of 13 and 17 have been arrested on murder charges. And now they're going through the process of determining which, if any, of these students, these suspects, I should say, will be tried as adults, Jesse Jane.
Well, I expect there to be a firmer hand for law-abiding citizens, because we constantly see the media play up any assault or any. There was an incident, geez, correct me if I'm wrong, it was an incident of a dock worker who was black and a white man approached him. They got into a fist fight, then it turned into several whites and they were fighting. Nobody was killed in that fight, and yet the media ran with it, suggesting that it was just a flagrant racist fight. Mm-hmm. Here we have, and then we go back to Trayvon Martin, we go back to George Floyd, we go back to all of these other incidents where people were unjustly treated, and yet when it's a young male white student, it just seems like it doesn't gain any traction. Look, racism, there's no such thing as reverse racism. I hear whites say that sometimes. Racism is racism. If you're discriminated based upon the color of your skin, that's what the documents all say. And so if there's a evidence of this being a hate crime, which in Washington, D.C., for example, brings a whole nother layer of law enforcement in. And I dare to say that you could probably find evidence of that, because these young kids, we're seeing this in Washington, D.C. every single day with the robberies, with the carjackings. They're under 15 years old, and they're not being tried as adults. And, it's so extraordinary. And may this young man rest in peace, and may the media start having a more fair dialogue, that they're creating this environment of distrust. They're creating this racist narrative. And we all saw it happen when Barack Obama started with, well, he could be my son. And it seems like we took 20 years. Yeah, it seems like we went backwards 20 years.
That's right. We did. By design. And this young man did the right thing. He actually stood up to the bullies, and he's paid for it with his life. And and we see these videos so often now. We've almost become numb to it. There's something more than just the racial component here, which is despicable, but also the fact that there is violence in our government-run schools that just goes unabated, that the teachers don't intervene. And I don't blame them sometimes, because, there's no benefit for them to get involved, and their union won't back them up, and the administration won't back them up, and the school board won't back them up. And, of course, at the same time, they're trying to take police officers out of the schools because they think that cops are the problem. And you send your kid to a government-run school, and they're facing a war zone. And you don't have to look to Las Vegas for it. It's happening right here in our backyard in Prince George's County, Montgomery County, Fairfax County, Loudoun County, God knows, in Alexandria. We see it all the time. And the so-called professional educators are just fine with letting our government-run schools that we're paying for with our tax dollars against our will turn into these absolute, what looks like a war zone, what looks like a prison yard.
Yeah, they're juvenile crime centers is what they've become, and they're festering this environment. There is a videotape of a teacher that tried to take a cell phone from a student, and she was beaten rampantly. Yep. Concussion. And now she's traumatized to go back into the classroom. Why would she want to go back in? Yeah. These kids are out of control.
Yep. And the only thing you hear from educators, by the way, is they want to, or school boards and teachers unions, they want to ban the cell phones from schools. Why? Not because their kids are Googling answers to questions. No, because they don't want these videos out, because they don't want you to know. It's 7:23.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:36 now. It's O'Connor and Company here on a busy Wednesday morning. Aren't they all? It's Larry O'Connor alongside Jesse Jane Duff, retired Marine Corps Gunnery Sergeant. Jesse Jane, thanks for being on. Thanks for not dropping me this morning. Usually you have me do 20 as we start off. But
Well, you looked a little peaked, so I thought
No
I should
idea,
be gentle.
man.
You know,
It's
you
been-
have to take care of your elders, so.
Good to have you. Really good to have you.
No, I've missed being here. It's a lot of fun. And you know, it's funny. All the time I've done on Fox News, all the time I've done on Newsmax, I got in a taxi before and they recognized me because I was on WMAL.
See?
Nobody
We
knows
have-
me from TV, but they'll know me when I get on this
Well,
network.
taxi drivers don't watch TV. They listen to the radio.
Right. Uber drivers. I've had a couple. One of them wanted a photo with me.
We're very big with Uber.
Yeah.
Listen, things were crazy on Capitol Hill yesterday. I mean, tensions are running high. And coming out of the Republican Congress, we actually had a dust up here. Call it the Capitol Hill Fight Club, maybe. But Kevin McCarthy, former Speaker of the House, was walking behind Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee. Burchett was giving an interview to NPR, and apparently McCarthy, deliberately elbowed him in the back, a kidney punch. You know, they always say before a boxing match, we used to watch boxing before UFC took over the world. And they always say, all right, no kidney punches. You know, you're not allowed, because you're really vulnerable right there under your ribs, just towards your back, right? Mm-hmm. It can be very painful. Here, listen on cut 12 here. Listen to this exchange.
Why'd you elbow me in the back, Kevin? Oh, no, I felt so bad. Hey, Kevin, you got any guts? Jerk.
That's a new
Hey, Kevin, why'd you walk by me and elbow me in the back? You got no guts. You did so. They sat there and the reporter said it right there. What kind of chicken move is that? You're pathetic, man.
Later, Kevin McCarthy denied the accusation, but there were witnesses to this, and apparently they're. But now it should be pointed out, Congressman Burchett was one of the 8 Republicans who turned on Kevin McCarthy and led to his ouster as Speaker. And apparently this is the first exchange they've had since that episode, and to call it an exchange is being generous. It was this close to being a physical altercation. We're chuckling about it, but this is the kind of thing that sort of makes us look bad, I think, to the rest of the
I think we already
country.
look bad. I think that ship sailed. I mean, now we need something. This is actually going to invigorate people. They feel like we've got some fighters in there. You know, we've been called milquetoast and boring and not getting anything done. Well, hey, maybe they'll have to duke it out to get something done.
Well, they almost duked it out in the United States Senate yesterday as well. I mean, this isn't just confined to the House of Representatives and the fight over Speaker. We had a sitting senator from Oklahoma. This is Senator Mullen, who was Mark Wayne Mullen is his name. And he was questioning the head of the Teamsters. And apparently these two have a history, because listen to how the exchange went.
Like he's self-made. Sir, I wish he was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company. Myself and my wife was running the office, because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours.
He's repeating things that this Teamster boss, Sean O'Brien, had said on social media about the senator.
Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution?
Hold it.
And at that point, the senator did stand up.
Uh-huh.
He was already doing the Jim Jordan thing without the jacket. He just
Yeah.
had his shirt sleeves. And he started to walk around the committee table to get at the witness.
And Uncle Bernie jumped in.
Yes, Bernie Sanders has to act like the quintessential boxing referee.
No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Actor.
Oh, okay. Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold it.
Why don't you stand your butt up? Why don't you stand your butt up? All right, I'll stand up right now.
And he did stand up. I saw the video footage of him. He was ready to go plummet this guy on national television like he'd lost his mind. And then to hear Uncle Bernie got to jump in. Hey, you stop it. You're a senator. Sit down. This is a hearing.
It's amazing. Okay, and wait, there's more, actually. Mild-mannered James Comer, chairman of the Oversight Committee, sparred with Jared Moskowitz of Florida.
Other money don't have an LLC. But you and Goldman, who is Mr. Trust Fund, continue to try to
reclaiming my time.
No, I'm not going to give you your time back. We can stop the clock. You all continue to. You look like a Smurf here, just going around and all this stuff. Now listen,
Mr. Chairman,
you look like a Smurf. He said. What is happening?
I think that, so I don't know if it was McConnell that said, I think this is the result of having people in session for over 5 weeks. Like, they have just now lost their minds. They haven't had a break. But I find that hard to believe because they seem like they took a lot of breaks before they were trying to decide who was going to be speaker. They took off for weekends, multiple things. You know, I think for Americans, though, we kind of want a little more fight in these guys anyway. But I don't know if this is the route we wanted them to go. I mean, we got Smurfs going. And if you have you noticed all the different accents, all the different American accents and all of these? You hear, oh, my goodness. You know, we've had everything from across the entire nation was expressed. And if you were a foreigner, you would say, well, which one was the American? They all were.
That's right. God bless our country. E pluribus unum. We're a great melting pot of people who are hot-headed with rough tempers, and we want to beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah.
God bless the USA.
That's the way it works around here.
The victory laps just keep on coming. We've already done the victory lap over Loudoun County CA Budabibarai, ending her political career with a humiliating defeat. And now a victory lap for Donald Trump and, frankly, for the Constitution and the rights of voters everywhere. You know that there have been attempts in Michigan, Minnesota, and Colorado to keep Donald Trump's name off of the ballot under the guise of the 14th Amendment. There is language in the 14th Amendment that pertains specifically to the Civil War that prohibits someone who has led an insurrection against the U.S. government from running for office. And that has been tendentially utilized by activists who don't trust the voters of their own states to try to keep Donald Trump's name off the ballot. Now, in Minnesota, this has already been struck down. And yesterday, in Michigan, it was also struck down. And a huge victory for Team Trump. But as I said, a huge victory for us. It is so despicable that these politicians, these elected officials, these activists are so disdainful of their own voters, of their own citizens, that they're terrified that the people in their states will vote for the man that they don't like and they don't think is worthy of the office. So instead of that, listen, if Trump is that bad, then put your guy out there. He's sure to win, no problem, right? But the fact of the matter is Trump isn't the monster that they're painting him to be. And so the only way they can defeat him is by making him not even a legitimate choice for people. That's what they're trying to do. And they claim, by the way, Jesse Jane, to be the ones who are really interested in a true democracy and letting every vote be counted. But they don't even want people to have the opportunity to vote for Donald Trump. Well, this judge did the right thing in Michigan, and now we're just waiting for the last challenge in Colorado.
Well, we've heard them say it out loud. Numerous Democrat leaders have stated, we will keep him off the ballot. We must not allow him to run again. I'm paraphrasing their words, but they have said this out loud. They don't keep their agenda to themselves. They're quite obvious about this. I want to give a shout out to Harmeet Dillon. Harmeet is actually a personal friend of mine. She's in San Francisco. She's in the middle of the cesspool. She fights relentlessly. Because of Harmeet, the churches got opened up in California during COVID because she was suing Gavin Newsom left and right. She's aggressive. She's good. Her law firm did this, and it's a huge win, not only for Donald J. Trump, but also this civil rights attorney who's representing conservatives.
Yeah, and it's a reason why so many wanted Harmeet Dillon to be the next chairwoman of the Republican National Committee. They were backing her to defeat Romney McDaniel this last time around when Ronna ran for an unprecedented fourth term. No one's ever been chairperson of the Republican Committee for this long. And they were looking at Harmeet Dillon as a viable option because she has a proven track record of victory. And that track record is victory not necessarily at the ballot box, but in the courtroom where so many of these elections are won or lost right now.
Yes.
Like it or not, this isn't even about winning elections anymore. It's about making sure that the systems are set up in a way that the election is run in a legitimate and fair way. And you got to know how to utilize the courts, lawyer up properly, and win these fights before Election Day. Harmeet Dillon has been doing that, and here's another example of her doing that. Where is the RNC,
the RNC
on something like this? You would think the RNC would be front and center fighting this fight in Michigan.
Yes, and I'm also friends with Cleta Mitchell. She runs Who's Counting .us, who's counting.us. She has election integrity breath, and we talk all the time about what's going on in the nation with election integrity, and it's really a state-by-state issue because each state had different flaws. And the RNC has not been aggressive enough in resolving many of the issues that are winnable in courtrooms. Winnable. Yeah. Not everything is defeat. And when they say Donald Trump didn't, he was denied, courts, did not want to hear his cases, it doesn't mean that he didn't have valid argument. It meant they felt he didn't have standing.
Right.
But that didn't mean he didn't have viable argument to come forward with. I mean, come on, multiple ballots going to every address, people that didn't even request those ballots. We know that's an election problem. State constitutions getting rewritten in the dead of night without voters having any influence in it. I mean, left and right, we could talk about a lot of integrity issues that just give people, let's just put it this way. If we both are saying we want election integrity, Democrat and Republican, then why don't we make the system tighter so we do have election integrity?
Well, because they don't want election integrity.
Of course.
They call election integrity everybody gets to vote regardless of whether they're able to or not.
Or even a citizen.
As Molly Hemingway put it yesterday, and it's very important to remember, as we see this is a victory, yes, but the Democrats continue to do this. They're trying to circumvent the process. This latest one is to keep Donald Trump's name from even being on the ballot. And Molly Hemingway said, Democrats don't run political campaigns. They run ballot trafficking operations. The quality of the candidate doesn't matter. Persuasion doesn't matter. Controlling the vote operation matters, and they do it. They do it very well. It's 7:54.